From an ops point of view, what are the core principles that every agency needs?
Core principles needed. Do we have defined processes? If we don't, we need to define them. If we need to define them, let's go record a bunch of Loom videos the next time you do these things. That's all you actually need in terms of how to do AI. And then it's defining culturally what type of org are we going to be in AI? AI forward or just AI compliant?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Agency Confidential, where we uncover the stories behind the business of running an agency. Today, I'm really excited to have a conversation with Jordan Ross from 8-Figure Agency. Jordan's worked with tons of agencies over the years to optimize their operations and more recently bring AI into their businesses. On this podcast, we go into how he built 8-Figure Agency and his HoldCo, what he's seeing across many different agencies that's actually winning in AI right now, why operations, documentation, and process are the real foundation for AI adoption, and where he thinks the agency space is going next. Let's get into it. Jordan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's set the stage a little bit here. Could you tell us a little bit more about what 8-Figure Agency does?
Yeah, so historically, 8-Figure Agency, when we launched, we were an operations and management consulting firm for agencies. I worked at Amazon, so I took my Amazon background managing 2,500 people and fulfillment centers and started bringing that model to agencies. It worked really well. I went viral on X. We went from like 0 clients to over 1,000 served by 2024. And in 2024, I had a HoldCo. I had done the whole build 1, build 2, build 3. And one of my clients in 2024 was a $40 million a year AI dev firm. And he sat me down. My son was 7 months at the time, and he was trying to poach me to leave my HoldCo to work for him. And he said, your HoldCo is out of business by 2028. He said, AI is going to destroy you. So in 2025, we were the world's first AI development firm for agencies. So today, riding that evolution, we have custom dev services for like 8 and 9-figure agencies. Those are 6 and 7-figure contracts. But the primary thing that ADEF is, it's a boutique consulting and development firm. We have our fractional COOs who know how to get agencies to 8 figures. They process map, identify the constraints and opportunity in an agency, and we build skills, agents, and eventually orchestration to take agencies to the next level, to the next era of agencies.
Very cool. Yeah, I know we've been talking a little bit on the back end. We're excited to see if there's anything we can do together with Pilot House. How did you get into agency specifically? Was that the easiest way in the HoldCo? Was that post-Amazon? Was that pre-Amazon?
When I was in my final year at Amazon, I just saw a kid, literally like a teenager, say, running an agency is so hard. My operations are tough. And I just DM'd him and that was it, right? I was moonlighting. He scaled to $1 million, sold for 7 figures. He referred me to all of his friends, and then it was just how any service goes. Like you get your case studies, you post content and you build a model and you hire people. And it just fell into the space.
Yeah, a lot of people, we were the same way. We ended up in the agency space just kind of by chance. We never went out looking to start an agency, but that seems to be the story with a lot of people. Tell me about the HoldCo. Go a little deeper there. What businesses do you guys own?
Oh, man. Well, for my first evolution of my HoldCo, I did literally everything you could do wrong. I actually did a webinar on how not to do a HoldCo. So in 2023, I was 4 years into the business. And ADEF at that time, we were basically a sales org because when we did our job, our clients churn. Like our job was to get our clients' operations really good so they felt they could run without us. So I realized we have this market. We could service the market really well. We got great case studies all the time, but they all leave. Not a great business model. So I launched 3 services over the course of a 12-month period. Bookkeeping firm and accounting firm. That was the first one because I wanted a business that would grow forever. I didn't want churn. I just wanted to service people well. So that has almost 100 agencies now. Lead gen and syndication agency, that's still running, but that's changing. And then we had a lot of clients we were referring out for automations and CRMs and project management. That's no longer in business. But the weird thing with my HoldCo, and why I did it wrong, I was the number one problem solver. So I went from having a really great life, 7 figures in EBITDA and distribution. I would take off 13 to 16 weeks a year. I had it made. And I just had a bigger appetite professionally. And then I had 4 companies and my problems 4X and my stress 4X. my income went up, but I was like, it wasn't worth it. So I have friends that do the HoldCo correctly, and so they hire CEOs, and I was the CEO at each one because I thought, what's the big deal? That was my biggest mistake.
I was talking to a friend recently who said, he was just saying, CEOs by nature, if you've got people below the CEOs who solve the kind of easier problem, all a CEO all day does is just solve the hardest problems that literally no one else in your organization can solve. It's a tough job. And especially when you're doing it for 2, 3, 4 companies, it becomes, super difficult. Have you rebuilt that or explored building that in a way that has CEOs in charge?
Yeah. So we're now actually moving into HoldCo thesis 2. So a few things happened. I fired one of the partners, and that led to a massive legal issue. That was a massive amount of stress, but he wasn't meeting my standards. So one of my mistakes was I hired the wrong person. One guy had a schizophrenic break, can't make that shit up. And that was like, we had a falling out, and that was horrible. And then the other one was one of my best friends, Ben, who, we're actually still dealing with this. I'm actually leaving the firm now, but Ben's one of my best friends, and he's working 12, 14 hours a day. And he's like, dude, I don't want to do this for 50%. I would like more. So they're buying me out now. So all 3 of these are going out. And the new HoldCo model is 8F is still the number one thing that's been around. We're just boutique, and that's the intent. So going back to what I used to have, I could make $1 million or $2 million in profit. I could work as much or little as I want to. But the version 2 is having AI forward services. So we have one that we're building right now. I have an engineer full time, and it's taking that lead gen syndication business we had, and we're just building a lot of AI for it. So my version of what I want HoldCo version 2 to be is AI forward services, 1, 2 employees that manage like millions of dollars in profit. And I don't want to deal with any of the problems. So don't come to me. So we're doing this with number 1. We'll see how it gets built, but I have 2 more. I have the next 2 things lined up that I want to build once this one could kind of operate without me needing to be involved in the building of it and operating of it.
Yeah, that's something we've been exploring as well at the Pilot House kind of group. We've always been in a very similar boat. We've been the ones doing the 12, 14-hour days. Kind of every problem kind of goes through us. We're only just, we're at 150 people across that agency. And we're only just getting to a point where we can really get ourselves further out of the weeds. And that opens up a whole other set of challenges, which is always wild. You think this one move is going to solve everything, and it just opens up yet another
it never
group of
does,
problems.
right?
No. Tell me about what you're seeing in the agency space. I mean, you see under the hood, thousands of agencies at this point. What are you seeing specifically to AI? Everyone's trying stuff right now. Everyone's exploring. I feel like no one's got it figured out. And I shouldn't say no one. Some people do, but most people think they don't have it figured out or are floundering. What do you see?
Few agencies do. So for context, I had a live event in April. I host 2 a year, and to get into my room, you have to be doing at least $1 million annually to attend. Otherwise, you won't get in the room. So most of the people are doing 3 to 10 million that are in my room, but we got a lot of 8-figure agencies. In April, I did a keynote, and I asked how many of you were doing some form of custom development, and it was like more than 50%, which that one blew my mind. I didn't know at that point in time people were trying. What I've found is 1% of agencies the guys that are dominating, they are making, it's like grotesque how crazy their operations are. And I wrote about one of them recently who we're talking about fully autonomous, closed loops, where one of them is a friend. He's had 2 8-figure exits. He, in December, had a closed loop where his ad creatives were automatically generating 300 a day. His AI would analyze the winners, would increase the spend on the winners, would create new AI creative, would cut the losers, and that runs every day, 300. And that was in December. And there are guys like that who have they have all the skills and agents built. They've figured out how to do what's called orchestration. And now they're just moving into like this more consultative model. Like that's where I think agencies go. The majority of people are trying, and this would sound familiar for a lot of people listening, but it's like they just don't have the time. So they start building. I'll use myself as an example here. I figured out how to, through a friend, he gave me full access to his SEO system. He went from 0 to 5,000 web visitors a day or a month in 8 weeks. And he gave me his entire repository. So I'm like, oh, we'll just build it. And I want to build it because I want to learn. And it's been 2 weeks and I haven't updated my website. So a lot of founders are doing things, but the speed at which they're doing things is so slow just because they have other things on their plate. And I think that's like the bell curve of people they have a few skills or they may have built a Hermes thing, but it's really not, they're not on some form of consistent cadence because just running an agency is a bunch of fires and it's really busy. And I think that's where most people are. So you have the 1% who are doing things at such a crazy level, their profit is going up. You have people that are trying, and then you have people that are like listening to this pod, they're on the sidelines thinking about it. Those are most of our clients. They haven't built any AI yet. They're coming to us to get onto the journey.
We see the same thing in agency. A lot of people are dabbling, they're testing, they're trying. One of the things actually, just when you were talking about that, is that there's kind of two parts that we're seeing. There's the building, which is really easy to get that dopamine hit. It's really easy to go talk to Claude, make some spaghetti. And while you're doing that, you've built this SaaS software that perfectly matches your business. The thing that we see a lot of people struggling with, ourselves included, is the upkeep. It's the actual, these things it doesn't work perfectly once you've got it up. Things break, things change. How do you weigh those two things in terms of AI infrastructure and agencies, in terms of building versus upkeep? Like where are you seeing the real progress made?
So my biggest insight for myself was that when an engineer builds something, the upkeep is far less. So Hermes came out. I spent the first month building a bunch of stuff and it was all broken a month later. It was really frustrating. And when I brought in and I was doing that as I need to learn how to do this myself, so I'll build it myself, even though I have engineers. And I brought one of my engineers in and I started asking him why, first off, this blows. I'm really frustrated. Why is this all broken? And then he just said, why don't we build together and you watch me build? The difference between guys like you and I who are not technical building versus an engineer, you have vibe coding and then you have 10x engineers. And when I asked him, I said, are you vibe coding these solutions? He said, no, I'm not vibe coding it. I know how to build this myself. I'm just doing it more efficiently. So the upkeep is far less when an engineer builds solutions because they know proper infrastructure. Like there's ways to prompt and QA something, a system, to make sure it's explicitly defined how the output looks and it's tested and it's verified and then it's run live and then it's tested to make sure scalability is there. I didn't know to think about any of those things, or even watching him do it 2, 3, 4 months ago. I don't remember what those things are. So I think a lot of the upkeep, when an engineer builds systems, engineers know how to build systems for scale. I think that's the first insight. The balance for me is really just, I focus on where are the leverage points and where are the systems. Can we roll those out and can we sustain those and have the team adopt them? In terms of maintenance, you got to have engineers on hand for when things break. We had something break today, but I just said, hey, this is broken, can you fix it?
And at this point, that's still got to be a human, I imagine.
For sure. I think there's a few guys, I'm in Hampton as well, and there's a few guys in Hampton that have their agents just auto-fixing their bugs in their agents, which is interesting. Yeah. So I think that stuff will self-correct, so to speak.
Yeah, I've got some buddies doing that as well. It's pretty amazing to see what people are putting together. Haven't seen it at scale yet, to be honest. Most of those things are like single person operations, that kind of thing. But in terms of building agents versus building platforms, like custom software, what are you seeing as the balance there? Like where maybe let's put it this way, where are agencies getting the most value today? Is it a bunch of agents that are running around, replacing people? Is it platforms that allow them to move faster? What are you seeing?
I actually don't think of it in terms of platform. I think of it in terms of getting capacity back. We're working on a SEO agency. They're based out of Ohio. We had to build them a platform to ingest all their ads. So they're doing SEO and ads, but their COO is being pulled into the operation. He's doing, just basic ad maintenance, right? Going in, downloading from Google and Meta, what do I need to increase spend on, build the report for the client. So we had to build a platform to ingest it. And then we built an automation that in that platform, it sends the reports out. For this agency though, the second thing we built was a project management agent though, because in that particular agency, their number one constraint was admin and project management. Between they're sending emails to clients, their clients aren't replying, they're forgetting to do things, they're churning because they're forgetting to do things. We assess things not from is it a platform or is it an agent? We look at it from where are we losing the most amount of time in this operation that when we build a solution, we are going to get back 25% of our time or 30% of our time. And if it's a platform, we'll build it. If it's a skill or skills or agents, we'll build those. And in this agency's, the project management solution was the biggest leverage point for the agency, but we had to have an owner actually own it and be the stakeholder that drives it. And the COO didn't have time because every week he's spending like 5 hours a week in reporting. So we got him his 5 hours back to then manage the project management agent. So it's a function of where are we losing time that we don't need to be using time on doing basic stuff.
So the auditing is obviously a hugely important part to really truly understand. Did most people know where they're losing time? Like you must audit a ton of businesses.
I think everyone knows generally how it feels. I think what I've found, they don't really know what to do with it though. Like the big lingering questions are, where should I host this data? I'm in Claude. How do I get this team member who doesn't use Claude to use it? Does that matter? Should I be going all in on this one platform, this platform? Like we don't have a brain. Do I need a brain? It's like all these infrastructure questions are bogging down people from like that initial setup is most of where the time goes for these people, and they don't even end up doing it. But they know what they need to fix. It's just like, I don't know how to fix it, so I'm not going to fix it at all.
How much of this is, it's funny because I found this as I do more AI implementations into parts of our business, a lot of it I find is less about the AI and it's more about operations hygienics. Like it's about running a proper, and you must have learned a ton of that at Amazon, I got to imagine. I mean,
well, that's what our
Amazon's
consulting
to
firm
the
has
T
been.
ops, isn't it?
Yeah. So my big aha this year was, AI is really about proper operations. What a lucky roll of the dice for me. Right? Like, so historically, we go into an agency process map, org chart. What's the first step, second step? We need to build our SOPs and trainings. Where does it go and live? What's definition of done? And when like Claude Code and, Codex, when these things really came around, when I realized it's just about proper operational infrastructure, I was like, holy we're so set up for this because we just need to keep doing what we're doing. And then we just bring an engineer in to like take these and build these skills into skill files and agents into agent files. And as long as we do our job, which we know how to do, like the agents work, the skills work. So yeah, to your point, it is all proper operation and definition. Like that's 99% of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about that a little bit further. Like almost every agency I know starts like yours did or starts like ours does, which is, you got one or two people doing some work for a friend. They refer you to somebody else. You start going, you hire a couple people. Almost every single one's a show in the early years. Some stay a show longer than others. How early should agencies be focusing on operations?
I mean, the second you want to scale beyond yourself is the time. And the difference now is if you or I, when we're smaller, we want to train, so we make like a Loom video. So like, I know we had a similar starting time, right? You guys got big in COVID. So Loom was around then. So we hire someone, we give them a bunch of Loom videos and say, watch it. Now we could plug a Loom video transcript into like a terminal or a Claude Code or even just a LLM chat and say, I want to take this process on how I do SEO strategy and identify between these 14 videos, all of the different things I need to train someone on. And then identify, using Fable, identify all the gaps I have. Like if I'm going to build a proper training or SOP or process, where are the gaps in all 14 of these videos? And then just ask me questions one by one. So you could start early, but now instead of handing someone a video, you could make that video and then interface with an LLM and fix it. And then when you fix it, that's what you could actually just, instead of giving them a training, you could give them a skill to run the strategy. So we have a small guy, he does 50K a month in profit, but he's just like one guy with like 5 people, and he hired us because he's like, I want to hire someone, but I think if I build all the skills, I could hire them and they could manage like double my revenue. So we're just taking his Loom videos and we're just building the skill files for him, like the first 90 days.
It's amazing. How again, even taking AI out of the equation, we've always found building processes it's fucking hard. Some people are really good at it. Some people aren't. I can't count how many SOP documents we've made that just go into some dusty folder that gets looked at once every 2 years, and then all of a sudden you realize it's horribly out of date. What are the best agencies doing that have just like what you would consider phenomenal ops? How do they look at that? How do you build that function internally?
Are we talking about in today's terms or just like evergreen terms?
I think evergreen terms, because I mean, knowing that process is, building process is one of the most important parts of AI. I think there's a lot of agencies that they can do it at the small scale when there's 3 people sitting in an office together, but as soon as it gets bigger than that, a lot of people get lost.
Yeah. So the thing we had at Amazon was SMEs, subject matter experts. Everything I've ever done with agencies, always just like, how did Amazon do it? Because Amazon figured it out, and I was just a student of Amazon. I just took that model to agencies. So at Amazon, it was standard operating procedures. And there were some that are just evergreen. Like, you're really not going to change this thing. But we also had, for your annual performance review, you had to have like 100% compliance on your particular SOPs that you had to make sure were up to date. So if you want to get a raise or promotion, it does not matter what seat you're in. If you didn't have 100% compliance in this thing, you're not going to get it. So this is when it's the end of the quarter. Like, I remember at one point having like 10 documents I need to check to see if they're up to date with compliance and stuff. And I worked extra 2 or 3 nights that week. I made sure they're up to date, but now I could get a raise. I could get a promotion if I qualified. And there's really no way around it, because like, you don't have the time to do it. But if it requires that you're going to get a raise or promotion to do it, like, that's how Amazon did it.
You're going to find the time.
So it's just someone's assigned the document, and then they're the owner of it. And when they leave, there's just an auto trigger to assign it to a new human.
I remember hearing this about Amazon that, if I'm not mistaken, well, I mean, I didn't realize the SOP part. Every SOP, I'm guessing, has one owner. Is that correct?
For sure. And as it relates to an agency, if you have a SEO or email or ad department and there's a process, there's one owner, period. And with agents, like, you could have an org chart on an agency, and if someone offboards, you could just have simple, if this person leaves, then the SOP ownership goes to their boss, then goes to their boss, then goes to their boss.
Yeah.
So take that same principle and that's how I do it in an agency now.
From an ops point of view, again, kind of like building that framework to be able, or that foundation to be able to implement AI effectively, what are the kind of core principles operationally that every agency needs?
So we go for path of least resistance when building in the first 90 days or 6 months. So core principles needed, it's actually what we've said already. Do we have defined processes? If we don't, we need to define them. And then if we need to define them, let's go record a bunch of Loom videos the next time you do these things. That's it. So we just had, I analyze the call transcripts for content every day for my company. And I saw last week, one of them was let's go back to the previous example. The COO was doing these ad reports, but he had a way he did them. So he recorded himself doing these reports with Loom, sent my engineer and my team the Loom videos, and that became the SOP. That's like the simplest form. That's all you actually need in terms of how to do AI. The longer form is you need a proper CRM, proper project management. If you're going to interface with Slack, you need like channels rather than individual channels. You could OAuth into everyone's inbox on Google, but you need your systems that you ingest the data from, and then you need defined processes. And then it's defining, this is a cultural one. The final one for scale is your agency going to be, Eric Sue calls it AI pilled? Or are you going to, at your size, you guys are probably not going to be, it's far harder being AI pilled org. So are you going to comply with, like, we got so many people that we need to build things to make it easy for them. So what we're doing for a lot of agencies is inside of Slack, if we're going to build things so you could run skills without actually having to go into a terminal or even learning how to use a terminal. So if you want to run SEO strategy agent, you're going to do /SEO, and then all the different options for SEO agents are going to pop up. So that would be the final one. Culturally, what type of org are we going to be in AI? AI forward or just AI compliant?
And let's talk about that. In terms of that, something we've struggled with, or we've been kind of playing around with and going both directions, is centralizing it, get an AI czar or hire a company like 8-figure agency and have them just kind of take charge of what we're going to do, versus decentralizing it, put the tools in the hands of the people and let them build, and then take the best ones and centralize it. Do you see people operating both ways, one way? What do you see?
I've seen the latter not work more times than not. And the reason why, how many team members in your organization, when you think about because you guys in Pilot House probably have, we'll call it 10% of AI forward people, but this is like a hobby and it's not what they're held accountable to. So do they have the expertise to pick, this is where we're going to host all the information, this is what's scalable, and they're going to stay on top of the trends to make sure when something changes, we're going to move the org. And then there is compliance and how do you get everyone else on board? I've seen it fail more times than not because those people get especially passionate and they get protective of what they have. And that creates this whole ego weirdness. And then it actually becomes far harder to untangle the mess. And then they over engineer a bunch of because they're passionate about it. Now they're going down a rabbit hole that's not purposeful. We're at a weird inflection point. And I actually recorded a solo podcast today on my own. There are a bunch of products coming in the market. They're in beta right now. There's hundreds of companies trying to build a brain for the mass market for B2B SMBs. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of agencies are hiring consulting firms or just individuals to build them a brain. And if you aren't doing what I'm doing, I'm talking to Silicon Valley backed companies. I'm talking to a lot of founders. You might not know that there's literally hundreds of companies competing and they're all in beta mode to figure out how do you maximize a context window. So that way any company could upload all of their information from their HubSpot, their ClickUp, their Slack, their GA4, and then it creates the perfect context window for each individual user. There's, I think, hundreds of millions of dollars in that space right now, because that's a massive space. I don't think anyone knows that that's actually happening, though, if you're not tracking it.
Would you say that's one of the biggest challenges with AI right now is kind of is maximizing, but not maximizing so far that it's got everything, figuring out the right context window for that right task and that right person?
Yes. And a lot of people are building these brain products, but if you're not an actual engineer, it's like people are learning how to do this on YouTube and with the wrong stack. It's a constraint. It's definitely a problem. But I know multiple founders who are actually, one of them, he's sold his last software for $1 billion. So it will be solved and it will just be something in the stack. But for an agency, I just think you need to be conscious that you shouldn't be building a brain. What we do is we're now doing Band-Aid solutions, we're going to host all of your information in GitHub, in a private GitHub. And when we run a skill or an agent, it's just going to pull the exact context from GitHub for you, rather than this whole context brain solution. It's just we're focused on process and optimization. And then when these products of whatever the heck they are, they come out, they get past beta, there's a proven winner, we could then move into one of those because it will 100% happen.
How do you run an operation I guess that's a great example of it, but how do you run a business? I feel like every agency's in the same boat right now of stuff is changing weekly, daily in some cases, how do you build an operation that is malleable enough to be able to move with the times, but also structured enough to have good operations?
This has been the question that I've used all year to figure out. I'm like, what is the answer to that? Because for me personally, it's been really stressful. I had the duality of being so excited, Jeff. I'm like, holy shit, as an operations consulting firm, we're just primed to do great with AI because it's just proper documentation. And on the other side of that coin, it's changing so much that I'm up till midnight or 1 a.m. every night just to stay on top of it because it's moving so fast, and that's overwhelming. So that's the pro and the con. I think for an agency, when we actually break down if we just focus on two simple things, there's skills, then there's agents. That's really everything. There are platforms, but a proper agency operation is broken down into files now. So an SOP turns into a skill. A skill is a folder that is defined SOP on how to do something. That is it. That skill folder could get hosted in a skill file or skill folder with the rest of your skills as an agency. And an agent is just another file. It's defining how to run a process. A project management agent has a defined criteria on what it does or when it does things. An SEO agent, strategy SEO agent, all these things, we are just defining what they do. It gets hosted in a file system. Agent.md, soul.md, skills.md, all these things get put into markdown files. And as long as those files are not living in Claude, we put them in GitHub for the explicit reason we want to be able to move into any technology, because I think there's going to be these juggernauts are going to war. As long as they're defined, you could go anywhere with them. So it allows the fluidity of like, Claude's going crazy, or Codex now is going crazy, or there's this new Silicon Valley software that's this brain product. I want to move all my stuff in there. Proper operations is just defining these things in these files and putting them somewhere in the cloud, and then just kind of waiting and using them in your stack. That's it. Very simple when you break it down like that.
It is when you say it like that. Absolutely. It is all processed, put it in there, and just, it's whether a person's doing it or an agent's doing it, it doesn't really matter. It's just, it's great documentation. It's great file structure, and it's giving it to this agent, or hey, this new agent, or hey, this new brain product. What do you think the agency of the future looks like based on what you can see right now? And it's interesting. Like we've always had this discussion internally. It's just we're driving down the highway, and all of a sudden just a ton of fog, and we're just driving through the fog. We can sort of see where we're going, but maybe it's a turn, maybe it's not. We don't know. That's what it feels like every day. What do you think? How do you, if you had to like wipe away that fog, what do you see?
I have a very strong opinion. I think you guys at Pilot House are positioned to do this because of trust. So brands and companies, or if we focus on what Pilot House and who you guys service, these brands are still going to go to agencies because they want someone to consult. The strategy is going to be more important. I think from what we've seen and what we're doing, and agencies, when they go full AI native, your profit margins go bonkers. Truly, like, you're more efficient, you can manage double the revenue. And what's going to happen is you could either take on more clients, or you could start paying your people more. So I have a post queued up to write, and it's about loops. So for everyone listening who don't know what a loop is a process in which you identify something you want to do. So like write an SEO blog, you post it, you identify how it performs, you analyze the data, you learn from the data, and then that changes your next iteration. And those things can be done in a closed loop. Everything that your agency does, especially done online, could be done in a closed loop. SEO, on-page, off-page, backlinks, ads, ad creative, performance, email, all the data. If you could API the data, like, we will not need humans to do anything besides orchestrate and pick strategy and kind of like give taste. So if that's happening, which is already happening, I've known a few agencies that are doing that. They're just like crazy people right now. It's really a consulting firm with very high paid people, and those high paid people are AI pilled. And they could interface with these things. They could look at the data to get spoon fed the results, and then they're able to go present to the client saying, here's what you should do. I have these 10 things running for you. I'm able to send, instead of 2 emails a week, now we're going to send 4, but I'm able to run way crazier analysis for you on your retention strategy of your email. And I think it's that one person is going to manage far more. I'm like extremely confident that's the next version. I don't know what happens after that version though.
What are the attributes of those people? Because we've had that same discussion in agency. It's how do you hire those people? What are the attributes that make them amazing?
Well, you know it, right? Your best strategists are those people. They have deep level expertise, but they're also a generalist at the same time. So they're just a really good marketer, right? So they understand funnel, they understand top, middle, bottom, they understand like what you're optimizing for in email or ads or SEO. And you don't have to do full service on this, but if I'm like, I think it's more of like a fractional CMO level energy, but it's going to be very common. I think you're just going to have these strategists, and there's Corey Schneider is like probably the most popular one on X or online right now, who's really publicly demonstrating what this looks like. He understands all different facets of marketing, and granted, he sells marketing solutions to companies, but I think if you're trying to identify what an archetype, he is that archetype, and you're just trying to find people like him.
Very cool. Jordan, thanks for joining us today. If people want to find you, want to work with 8-Figure Agency, where do they find you?
Yeah, 8figureagency.co. That's CO. I'm on X, Jordan_Ross_8F. And if you like to do podcast stuff, I publish one a week, how to build an 8-figure agency is the pod. Those are 3.
Love it. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff.